Grade 7s, nice to see you again. Sorry that we're not in class in person. We're going to be using our textbooks and we're going to be start working carefully and neatly on exam pad paper so that when you get back to class we can just cut and paste neatly into our book. And I'm going to skip a little bit ahead in the textbook because I wanted to start with the section that involves drama. It's just a nice way to start the year. So we're going to be looking at page 30 of your textbook, and at the top it should say there, what a drama. And we're going to be talking about conversations and language, register and tone, the kinds of words we use in different situations. So, conversations can be have a serious tone, they can be light-hearted, conversations can be intense or romantic or playful, conversations can be private. A conversation obviously is when there's more than one person involved, and we converse all the time, we speak to each other all the time. Now, just to get ourselves in the right frame of reference, we're going to be looking at a little extract from Romeo and Juliet. Now, it's quite exciting, you guys. When you get to high school, you're going to be doing Shakespeare. So we're not going to be going into any great detail, but I think you guys are going to enjoy it when you get there. So William Shakespeare, obviously, he's not alive anymore. He was born in England over 400 years ago, and he wrote many plays. And he's not just a playwright, he wrote a lot of poems, sonnets. Some have a romantic tone, some have a dramatic tone. They have different themes, some about love, some about war. Now, when he wrote in the language of the day, in the language that people used at the time. When we read it, often we think, wow, he's using very fancy words, he's writing in a very formal, fancy way. It sounds that way to us because that language changes over time. So that's actually quite obvious to us if we think about it. Even the words we use are not the same words our parents use. Sometimes we have in jokes or use slang or use certain lingo that people who are not in our community or maybe who are not in our generation might find confusing. So just a quick summary of Romeo and Juliet, if that's possible, just so you have an idea of which two characters are speaking. It's a play about two young people, and you know how it goes. They fall in love very strangely. They fall in love at first sight. Romeo has never seen Juliet, and Juliet has never seen Romeo. Romeo is a little bit of a bad boy, a little bit of a questionable character. Juliet is very young and naive and impressionable, much younger. So I would say Romeo is like the tall, dark, and handsome, strange, mysterious, and slightly dangerous older man. And obviously, the story is about their forbidden love. So they fall in love, but it's not a love that is easily accepted or easily allowed within their community. The reason why is because they each belong to a different family, and those family, wow, they've been having a feud for many generations, and so they would really be horrified to hear of this love affair between these two. So the conversation, brief bit of conversation that we're going to be looking at now is from one of the most famous parts of Romeo and Juliet. So even though we can't get into it now, if it's interesting to you, I would encourage you to go and watch some videos or to watch some, see if you can find the plays of Romeo and Juliet. Some of them are a bit old-fashioned and others are more modern. If you're interested in the story but you don't want to have a more modern take, you can watch the Romeo and Juliet version with Leonardo Dicaprio, which is a couple of years old now, but still more entertaining than some of the older versions. So this is when Romeo has just met Juliet at a party. She's obviously gone to bed early, left the party at a respectable time. She's ready for bed, and she hears a voice. It's Romeo. Now, Romeo should not be anywhere near the house. He's lurking in the dark, kind of creepy actually, stalking a girl he's just met, insisting that she speak to him. And this is the conversation they have a bit of. Obviously, she's worried that he's going to be spotted. Her parents are strict, and she is a very good girl. So she's been protected her whole life. If they were, regardless of who he is, if they were to find out that she was even talking to an older boy, then I don't think they would be very happy. It's dark, it's nighttime. Juliet is wealthy. She lives in a mansion. The mansion has high walls, they have security guards that walk around the property. They're armed, and if they saw a stranger lurking in the garden, he would certainly be killed without question. So she says, if they do see you, they will murder you. And he says, listen to how charming he is. Unfortunately, there lies more danger in your eye than 20 of their swords. Do you hear the machismo, how macho he's being? Look at me kindly. I will be safe against their enmity, against their dislike, their hatred. And she says, I would not for the world have them see you here. She's worrying about his safety. And his response is poetic. Listen to this. He's waxing lyrical, trying to impress her. And I have night's cloak to hide me from their sight. And unless you love me, let them find me here. My life were better ended by their hate than death prolonged, wanting of your love. Basically saying, I would rather die than be without you. Keeping in mind that they've only met once, very briefly, maybe an hour or two before this, and he's already claiming he would rather die than be without her. So these kind of grand gestures, proclamations of love, should be putting up red flags for her, warnings that this is not a very stable young man, to be totally obsessed with somebody to the point where he would rather die than be without her. All right, page 31. I would like you to very nicely, in detailed, elaborate answers question 1, 2, and 3. When you're doing question 2, I want you to write the word and then find a line in this short little conversation to support your answer. And then I want to talk to you now quickly about tone and register. Now, when we speak, just like kind of the same way we dress, certain things are appropriate in certain contexts. So, for example, if you were going to the lost city for the day, then maybe wearing your bikini and a wrap and some slip-slops might be appropriate dress for that occasion. Perhaps if it was at a wedding or at a job interview or at a more formal occasion, wearing that same bikini might not be appropriate. The same goes if wearing a tuxedo or wearing a very fancy evening wear might be appropriate at an awards ceremony or at an inauguration of the president or something like that. Wearing that same outfit to somewhere else might make people look at you a bit strangely, or might make people think you maybe don't understand that social situation or setting or what's required of you in that social situation. So we use language in very particular ways in different settings. So, for example, the way I might comfort my mother might be different to the way I chat to my best friend, might be different to the way that I ask my boss for a raise, which might be different to how I might speak to somebody if I was interviewing them versus if I was being interviewed. So we change our language. Often we do it naturally without even thinking, but it's something I want you guys to be aware of. When you're reading, when you're watching television, when you're looking and listening to the conversations around you, I want you to become aware of the register that people are speaking in, the kinds of language they're using, whether it's appropriate or not, and how people change their words depending on the situation. Now, I don't expect you to speak like the Queen of England formally throughout. Nobody does. In fact, you shouldn't. What will help you the most, I think, going forward, is to be able to change your language and your patterns of speech to suit the situation for a few reasons. First of all, so as not to offend. So you might want to show respect, or you might want to comfort someone, or to show someone that you you support them or that you're an ally to them, or for whatever reason, you'll use certain language and you'll avoid other language. So I want you to quickly have a look at this table. Register is the different words we use in different situations, the style of speaking or writing, the grammar we use, whether it's sloppy or formal, our tone, whether we sound angry, or whether we sound frightened, or whether we sound coy or shy, the pitch, whether we're speaking very high or whether we bring our voices down low. Those things change for different situations and contexts. And if you're aware of this and you can change your writing for different characters and for different genres, then you're going to become a really great writer. Okay. So if you have a look, there's a little definition about the four main kinds of register. Okay. We all use each of these throughout our life and perhaps even throughout our day. You're going to actually draw this table neatly on a piece of paper so that you can stick it into your book. So this table has 4 rows going down. So there's register is the heading, and then it says very formal, semi-formal, informal, and personal or relaxed. So at the top, you'll write register, and then you'll put those 4 going down. Now, in the textbook, there are 3 columns going down. You see them? 1, 2, 3. Now, on your paper, I would like to add a 4th column. So if you can imagine, I want you to add another column. So if you want to measure the width of your page and then divide it by 4, you can. To make it easy, I sometimes just like to fold the page like this, and fold it in half, and then you'll get 4 columns. The first column, I want you to write the heading register. The second column, I want you to write context, the same as in your textbook. The next one, features, and the last one, I want you to write own example, own example. All right. So there are 4 different kinds of registers which we use depending on the situation. So we might use a very formal register in a very formal situation. So, for example, a speech at a very important ceremony. Let's say the Queen is being knighting somebody, or perhaps at the presidential inauguration, or perhaps at a very formal evening. We might say, Your Majesty, and use titles, Sir, Lords, Ladies. And the features of using very formal languages, we don't use slang in those situations. Okay, so we won't say, Awe bra, welcome to our posse, we're going to, no, you'll say, ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies, we are gathered here this evening. So we're not going to use slang, and we're not going to use colloquial language. Colloquial language is kind of the informal spoken language that we use when we're talking, but if we were writing, maybe we would write a bit more formally. Usually if we're writing or speaking in a very formal register, we are not going to use contractions. So we won't say, he can't go, we would say, he cannot depart from this place. We won't say, do you wanna? They'll say, would you like to? So they'll always use the longer version of the word or a longer sentence rather than all these shortenings that we usually use. Use of titles, we'll say, Lord, Lady, Sir, Ladies and Gentlemen, Your Majesty, Honorable so-and-so. And good sentence structure, complete full sentences with excellent grammar. So it's kind of like it goes from very formal, less and less formal. So underneath would be semi-formal. So perhaps if you were going to an interview, you wouldn't act the same way as if you're meeting the Queen. You'll be a little bit aware of your body, a little bit, maybe you might dress a bit smarter. Maybe if someone was interviewing you on the television, or you're going to interview for an important job, or maybe a news reporter telling us the news headlines, we're not going to use slang. We might use some colloquial language, so we might be a little bit more talkative as if we're talking to the person one-on-one, as if we know them a little bit. We might use some contractions. So we might say he didn't appear as opposed to he did not appear. And correct sentence structure, we want everybody to understand. Then if we're in a less formal situation, we are more informal. I would say most of the time we speak in an informal or casual way. If we, maybe two people, like Oprah is on television and she's chatting to somebody else, they're sitting on the couch and there's a back and forth conversation. Everybody can understand what they're saying. They are being friendly, or they are being familiar with each other, but they're not being totally slap and slang, but they are not being totally formal and stiff upper lip and all of that. Maybe if you come up to a teacher and you're asking them about sports practice this afternoon, you're asking them about completing a project or work, you'll be aware of your language. You won't be too sloppy, but also you have a relationship with that person. You know the teacher, they know you. So you're going to be fairly informal, fairly casual. Okay. You won't come and stand at attention and say, Your Majesty, Lord, Lady, I would like to inquire. No, you'll just say, I want to ask a question about the homework. And the features of that is we might throw in slang here and there. We're familiar with each other. We know each other. We understand each other. We might use some colloquial language. So we might refer to things that we both know about. We might contract words. I can't, I don't, I won't, I wanna, I'm gonna. That's fine. Okay. It won't be every word or in every sentence, but we know each other. We're familiar. We're casual with each other. We can be informal. And then the last is very personal or relaxed. So we might have a special language almost that we use with people who we're very close to or who we spend a lot of time with. So maybe you are video calling with your bestie, or you are texting somebody, a good friend, or you have your best friend is over visiting at your house, or you and your brother have almost like a secret language between the two of you. You have inside jokes, you'll refer to memes, you'll use slang, funny words that you made up. The back and forth will be fast and quick, and you won't even bother to finish your sentences. You don't need to even use complete sentences. You complete each other's sentences. So maybe if you are at home, chilling on the couch, chatting to your friend or a brother, or if you're fairly casual with your mom or dad, you might have a back and forth. You're not conscious of the words you're using. It's just whatever comes out. You get each other. Maybe there's a relative who, when you're around them, you kind of have to, pull up your socks a little bit and be a little bit more formal. Maybe a strict aunt, or maybe your grandmother's a little bit strict or old-fashioned, and when you speak to them, you might become a bit more formal, or you might use a more formal register. But with people who you're around all the time, you'll throw around words. You're just comfortable with them. Okay, so your register changes or switches depending on the situation or the requirements of the situation. We wear a bit of a mask sometimes socially, so you would wear a particular kind of mask or act in a particular way in a very formal setting, using a very formal register of speech and language. But when we're at home, we can almost take the mask off and just be ourselves and just be relaxed, and just other people will be more understanding and more accepting of our weirdnesses. So we can be, in that case, very relaxed. I want you to copy this neatly into your book. You can use colored pens for each section. You can highlight the keywords, do whatever you like, make it look nice, decorate it, make it look nice. Then in the column that I've asked you to add, you're going to write your own examples. I want you to write 1 or 2 or 3, rather do more than too little, of your own examples of the kind of language you think you would use that's very formal. So for example, don't steal my idea, I would say, very formal example, Your Majesty, it is an honor to be in your presence. That's an example of something I might say that's very formal. Semi-formal, I might say. Today there has been a storm on the coast of Mozambique, and we are asking everybody to be on high alert for. And then informal or casual might be, hi, I wanted to ask about athletics today. Are we going to go on the bus, or should I ask my... So just informal, casual. And then personal, relaxed, you might be like, hey, what you up to? What you doing? I don't know, whatever slang you want to put in there, anything goes when it comes to being relaxed or personal with those who are close to you and those who you feel comfortable with. And then after that, you're going to answer the questions below. Okay? You don't need to do D, which was I was going to ask some of you to read out your dialogues, your you'll see what happens when you get there. I was asking some of you to read some of your writing for us, which you won't do now, but please do it properly because I'll ask you at a later stage. And so you'll do 3, ABC, not D, and then number 4. I want you to really spend a bit of time on your work. I want to see when I look at your work that you're thinking deeply. You guys are smart, you guys are deep thinkers, you are creative. I want to see that reflected in the things that you write. So maybe in grade 6, we were a little bit like more lenient, a little bit more accepting of shorter answers, maybe some thinking that doesn't go deep. But in grade 7, we're going to focus on thinking deeply, then thinking a bit more, then philosophizing, and then articulating, right? Taking those thoughts and expressing them in your writing, in your speaking, and trying to become skilled writers so that we can think, write, and then whoever reads your writing should understand what you're saying clearly, and they should enjoy reading your writing. They should enjoy reading your thoughts. So I'm looking forward to that, and I want to ask you to do every single exercise in detail, elaborate. Don't take shortcuts. I want to see that you are thinking about what, thinking about the concepts that are in the work. Okay, good. Enjoy your day, guys. Be safe.